Hi, in this video, we're going to walk through a formula meter in this particular gas injection network. So you'll see here, this particular network has a couple of wells and wellhead meters that are used for the allocations and a couple of different meters, which one of them is a formula meter. So let's go ahead and click into this one and see what the formula meter looks like in terms of the setup. So once you do that, when you're creating a formula meter, it's really broken up into three different sections, right? The first section is you define the name of the formula meter, as well as which product and disposition it's related to. Next, you identify the variables that will be used in the formula calculation as well. So in this particular one, you can identify the variable, that's something you would define, which object type it's associated to, or in this one, meter, the actual object itself, so a couple of different injection meters, as well as a flare meter and a sales meter. And then finally, you'll identify the attribute and the reading within the attribute that you'll be using. So this one, we have a reading type called gas meter with press BTU, and we're looking at the volume and standards condition attribute in that reading as the volume for this particular formula meter. Finally, you can choose in terms of the reading date. So let me see if I have. I'm being able to look at either current date or a last date or last available. And then finally, validity. So there may be certain scenarios where you want to ignore the reading because it's maybe for example, a well test where it's invalid or not needed for allocations. So once you go ahead and define the variables, you define the formula that you want the formula meter to actually use. So this is one of a little bit more complex where it's a conditional formula. In this scenario, if the injection meters, the INJ1, 2, and 3, if the sum of that is equal to or greater than the flare plus the sales, then we want the formula meter to show 0. Otherwise, if they're not, the actual gas production would be the flare meter plus the sales meter minus any of the injection meters. So once you go ahead and do that, you can run the allocations and see the results itself. So in this particular one, on the 5th, you can see the formula meter has a production of 1801. When you look at or expand on it, you can see each of the individual volumes that are attributing or for the formula meter, so the gas injection meters, as well as the flare meters. So you can see when you add these two and subtract them, it'll get 1801. So this particular scenario is where the actual formula meter for the sales and the flare meters are greater than the actual injection meters. Now, in another scenario, here is where we're showing 0 production because in this scenario, the sales meter and the flare meter, the sum of those two is less than the sum of the injection meters itself. So therefore, when we run the allocations for that particular day, it's showing 0 instead of the sum or instead of a negative number itself. So this is just one example of an actual allocation or a formula meter that can be configured in a particular network. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions in terms of what other formulas can be handled in the formula meter concept. Thanks.